Hello my beautiful people, you're welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. God bless you all and I hope you are all doing great. So today I want to answer a question that was asked by one of the subscribers. How do you create a tube bustier that would have yoke? I've made a tutorial on how to draft a tube bustier on this channel. I have also made a tutorial on how you can draft a princess that bustier with yoke. Okay, so this time around is a tube bustier with yoke. So thank you for being here, and if you're new to this channel, I am Vivian. Okay, and I say a very big welcome to you. Please join this family by subscribing. To subscribe is free. Just hit on that red subscribe button below the video and you see lines of bell, 3 bells. Click on the first one that says all notification. So this is for you to be able to get all the notifications of the new videos I'll be uploading on this channel. So I upload videos on sewing tutorials, fashion tips, and everything that has to do with sewing. So you are very welcome. Now, to draft a tube bustier with yoke, you have to make your basic bodice pattern. I have a video on this channel on that, edited video, but because some people have been asking or saying they don't know how to draft their basic body, that's why I decided to just mark out the vertical measurements. Then I'll just take you, step by step on how to do that. But for you to get the full video on how to draft the basic bodies, I will drop the link in the description box. Okay, so the description box is, you see an arrow pointing down. By the time you click on that arrow, it will take you to the description box where you'll see links to other videos I have on this channel. Okay, that is just some of the videos I've mentioned, like the princess that bustier with yoke and tube bustier. Then the basic bodies tutorial will also be there. So let's just get started. I don't want this video to be too long, that's why I just decided to mark out this point. So this very line is your starting line, okay, which is also the shoulder line. So I always give 1 inch gap before drawing the shoulder line, so that I'll be able to mark out my shoulder seam allowance at the top here, because you need the allowance to join your shoulders, okay, so that you won't reduce your neckline or your armhole by the time you join. So you take 1 inch and you draw your line, that is your starting point, and also your shoulder line. So from your shoulder line, you mark your bust point. All you need to do, measure where you have your bust point on your body, from your shoulder to your apex, that is the fullest part of your bust, that is your bust point. Then after your bust, directly under your bust, you have your under bust. Then you also place your waist measurement. Okay, so these are your vertical measurement. Then you can also place the full length of the blouse depending on where you want it to get to. So for this one, it will end at the waist, okay, so that peplum can be joined to it. So that is it. So I have this little diagram as usual. So from your shoulder, you mark where you have your bust point, your under bust, and your waist. Okay, so this is just an illustration of what the yoke bustier, that is the tube bustier with yoke, looks like. Forget about the ugliness of the drawing, it's just for illustration. Okay, so we would mark out now. By the time you have placed the vertical measurement as shown, what you do now is to take your shoulder measurement. So in this case, shoulder measurement is 15 inches. Divide by 2, that is 7.5. So I would measure 7.5 from this point. And because the blouse will be having sleeve, you need to add ½ inch for joining the sleeve to the bodice. Okay, so instead of marking 7.5, I would mark at 8 inches. So this is it, you mark at 8 inches. Then you also place your neckline at once. So for the width of the neckline, I will use 4 inches. Depth of the neckline, since it is a yoke, the neckline will be a bit high. Okay, so let's take 3 inches for the depth of the neckline and connect like so. So this is the neckline for the yoke. Okay, then at your shoulder, that is the shoulder mark, you step down by 1 inch. This is for the shoulder slope. So for those that already know how to draft a basic bodice pattern, you'll be familiar with this. Okay, so by the time you step down from your shoulder mark by 1 inch, you then connect it to the neck width. Okay, that is, you step down from your shoulder mark by 1 inch, you connect to the neck width. So this is your shoulder slant. So from this point now, from this shoulder slant, you place your armhole depth. So you can measure it around your body, that is, you round your armhole, divide by 2, or you simply use the formula bust circumference divide by 6 plus 1. Okay, so bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1 will give you your will give you your armhole depth. So in this case, the armhole depth is 8 inches. So we'll mark it. Okay, so by the time I mark it, I would connect it to this point like so. Then you extend it. You extend it out. So where you have this, you can also draw it to this point if you want, because this very line now is now your upper bust or chest line. That is if you extend it to this side. Okay, so this will be your upper bust line or your chest line. So having done this now, we need to take the armhole curve. So for our armhole curve, what you do is you take your round bust measurement divide by 4. Okay, that is what you place here. Then you can add a little ease, okay, like ½ inch for ease. So let me mark at 9.5. So the ease you usually place at this armhole is for it not to be too tight, so I can raise your hands, okay, without destroying the dress or tearing the dress at that point. So by the time you have marked this, you now find the midpoint of this line. From here to here, the midpoint, since it's 8 inches, the midpoint is 4. Okay, it's at 4. So at that point now, you can come in by ½ inch, you can come in by 3/4 of an inch, that is 0.75. You can come in by 1, depending on what you want, but don't come in too deep. So let me use 3/4 of an inch, which is 7.5. Okay, so this is it here. Okay, so you come in. By the time you come in, you then connect it to this point. So you just connect it up here. Then by the time you have done this, you now make a curve, okay, to meet this point, and that is your armhole curve. So you can use your French curve to do that. Just carefully place it and you connect. Okay, so this is your armhole curve. Now, by the time you have gotten to this stage, the next thing is to place your darts. Okay, so to place the darts, we would mark the bust span. Okay, so for those that don't know what is bust span, it is the distance between one nipple to the other. So we call it nipple to nipple. So that's your bust span. So you mark your bust span. So in this case, the bust span is 4 inches, but I'll add ½ inch for joining. You know, by the time you have cut the dart, you need to join this part, this panel to this panel. You need to join. So you need to add ½ inch. Okay, so I don't have the center piece being too small. So instead of 4 inches, which is it, so like I said, that bust span is the distance between one nipple to the other. So you have to divide it by 2 because your paper is on fold. Okay, so if you have 8 inches from this point to this point is 8 inches. By the time you divide it by 2, you get 4. So that is what I'm having here. The bust span or the nipple to nipple is 8 inches. Divided by 2, that is 4. Okay, so like I said, I'm adding ½ inch for joining the center piece to the side piece. By the time you have cut out your darts. So that is 4.5. So I would mark it all the way down. So by the time you have marked, what you will do is just connect the points. Okay, so you connect the points like so. Now, having done this, we'll now get to the yoke part. You ask yourself how deep you want the yoke to be. Okay, how long or deep you want your yoke from the shoulder to where you want it to be. So this time around, we'll call this the second neckline. Okay, so that is the neckline for the tube part. Okay, so in this other side, you can just draw whatever neckline you want, and since it's the yoke, it's always just rounded like so, but whatever neckline can go, canoe and round whatever, even a little V neckline can also go with yoke. Okay, so back to this side, we have gotten the top part. Now we want to know, or we want to create where this our tube will get to. So from your shoulder, you place whatever measurement you want, okay? Usually before the bust point, that is before your upper bust point, because it depends on what you want actually. So if you want your cleavage to show, because normally or usually this yoke part we usually use either mesh, net, lace, or any other fabric to make this part. So depend on what you're using. If you don't want your cleavage to show, you can step up a little bit. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is this: from your shoulder, mark wherever you want your tube top to get to on your body. Okay, wherever you want it to get to on your body, you mark. So this is my bust point here. I wouldn't want it to get to the bust point so that the breast will not be showing. So it will just come up a little bit. So at this point, I have my upper bust. It's okay. So if the yoke gets to this point, it's still okay. Okay, it can get to 7 inches, can get to 7.5. So let's use 7 inches. And one other thing you need to consider is this: if your yoke will be straight, you can just take the exact measurement. Like if you want it to be 7 inches, you mark at 7 inches. But if you're making a sweetheart neckline for the tube part, if you want it to be maybe from your neck to this point to be 7 inches, what you mark here should be 6 inches. So that by the time you now curve in by 1 inch, you have your sweetheart neck. So let's practice it. Let me do it here so that you understand. So I want mine to be at 7 inches. So what I will do is to mark at 6 because I want to make a sweetheart neck. Okay. So since I want to make a sweetheart neck, the sweetheart will cut to this 7 inches and go across. Okay, so let's just do it. Let me draft it here so that you see. So I marked at 6 inches. So I just want to make a faint line here. Okay, so I'm marking it. So I actually don't want the line to be so obvious. So by the time I create the neckline, you won't have double lines there. So let me use chalk to mark it. So I hope you can see the chalk line. Yes. So this is the neckline for the tube part. Okay. So it depends on what you want. Yours might be lower than this. Okay. It's just a matter of preference, a matter of choice. So if you want it, if it's going to be a straight yoke, that is the yoke part will just be straight, you can just mark at that 7. Just mark at the 7, okay? But since, like I said, it's going to be sweetheart, the sweetheart will come down, then cut across to that 6 inches line, like so. Okay, so because if you come down by that 7, by the time you cut at your sweetheart, you'll be having it going down, and it might be showing your cleavage. So like I said, it's a matter of preference depending on what you want. So by the time you have marked this neck line, you extend this your bust span line to that point. So just extend it to that point, like so. Okay, so the reason I use chalk is by the time I draw my neckline, you won't have double lines there. I don't want you to get confused. I just use chalk as a temporary mark. Then when I create my neckline, I will clean up the chalk. So by the time you have extended the line to that point, okay, you can even measure it to be sure because the line looks away. So this is it actually. So just make sure you get it right. Okay, we have it there. So the next thing now is to place our darts. I have explained on this channel how to take your dart. Okay, I have videos on dart intake, how to place your dart when you're making bustier. But let me also explain again in this video. When you want to take your dart, you have to consider the bust measurement. So when your bust measurement is on the average, you just place 2 inches on this side and 1 inch on this side. Then you come down here by 1 inch. Okay, you come down from the bust point by 1 inch and you connect. Then, but if your bust is over average, like if you minus your under bust circumference from your bust circumference and you're getting above 4, if that is the difference between your bust circumference and your under bust circumference is above 4, what you will do is you come down by either 1.5 or 2 inches so that by the time you create your curve, you have enough room to accommodate the bust. But in this case, the bust measurement is on the average. So what I will do, first of all, I'll mark 2 inches on this side and 1 inch on this side. So these 2 inches and 1 inch can actually go for all bust sides, or if your bust is very small, you take 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side so that you won't have a very big cup that is so bigger than your bust, and then that would be looking too obvious that the cup is big. So you take 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side. Like if the difference between your bust and your under bust gives you like 2 inches, it means you are not busty. So just mark 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side. But if you have from 4, okay, I hope I'm making sense. If the difference between your bust and the under bust is like 4, you mark 2 inches here, 1 inch here. But if you have above 4, you still use 2 inches here and 1 inch here. But you have to extend the curve here to accommodate the bust of the person. So this is what I mean. For this average, I will use 1 inch. Okay, so this is what I mean. Now I will connect it like so. Connect it like so. Then on this side, you don't need to curve it, just connect like so. So what I'm trying to say is that if the bust is very big, that the person is very busty, instead of coming down by 1 inch here, you can use 2 inches. You can use let me use chalk. You can use 2 inches. You can use 1.5. So by the time you create the curve like so, by the time you connect to this point, you see that you have created more room to accommodate the bust. Okay, you have created more room. So by the time you have connected this one, you then come to this other side, this neckline here. You mark 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this other side. Okay, so 1 inch is just okay. You mark 1 inch here and you mark 1 inch here. So because this is a tube top, that is this side is tube, you just connect straight to the bust point. You connect straight, then you just smoothen it out. But if you are making princess darts, if you haven't watched my video on princess dart bustier, I will leave the link in the description box, because the princess dart bustier is armhole dart. So there's the way you curve it to the armhole that you would have to like step up a little bit on this side, so that by the time you create the curve, it will not be pointing at this bust point. Okay, so I will also leave that video, the link to that video, in the description box in case you haven't watched it, so you watch it and understand better, because I don't want this video to be too long. So let's just go ahead with our tube top with yoke. So now, like I said, you mark 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side, and you just connect to the bust point like so. You connect it to the bust point, okay, like so. And on this side, you also connect. Okay, So you might be asking, why are we stepping down by 1 inch here? It is for you to have a nice curve that will not be sharp at this bust point. You don't want by the time you finish sewing your bustier, the nipple part, that is this bust point, will be pointy. You don't want it. So that's why you need to come down. So you can see the shape we have. It's not pointy. You just curve it, okay? When you have any sharp edge there, you make sure you blend it up, okay? So this is it. So we have taken our dart. Now you can create your sweetheart neckline. You can decide to leave it straight if you want. So I want sweetheart neckline. So what I will do, from my neck, from that neckline I marked initially, I'll come down by 1 inch. Okay, so you just mark 1 inch from that point. So 1 inch is okay, half inch is okay, depending on how sharp you want this side to be, but please don't make it too sharp, so that by the time you're joining the yoke and the tube top, you will not have so much difficulty. So you can take half inch or 1 inch. So you see why I said you should mark 1 inch away from the original neckline you want, so that by the time you come deep, it will not, that is, by the time you curve out your sweetheart neck, it won't be too deep than you expected. So from here now, I'll just connect it to the neckline. So you can just use your curve and do so. So you just connect it to this point, to this mark here, okay, to get your sweetheart neckline. So depending on how curvy you want it, or just, whichever way you want it, you just mark it, okay. So this is it. So this will give me the sweetheart neckline. So here now, there's something I want you to note. You will have to replace these darts. So we have 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side. That is 2 inches. Please replace it at this side. If you don't replace it, by the time you join it, that is, you have to cut it out. If you cut it out and join it, you'll be short of it on this side. So what you do, whatever that you're placing on your dress, you have to replace it. I've always hammered that on this channel. Always remember to replace your dart and do it immediately so you won't forget. So the 2 inches you're taking away from here, we would add it up on this side. Okay, you add it on this side like so. So you can see what I'm doing from my armhole curve. From this armhole curve, I came out by 2 inches. Okay, so that is not from this line, from the armhole curve. You mark your 2 inches. So that is it. Okay, so by the time you have marked it here, also mark it here too. That is on this your armhole line. Also come out by that 2 inches. Okay, so you have to also mark it at this point, and now you create a new armhole. Okay, so you create a new armhole. Now let me just create the armhole first so I can see it. So you create a new armhole. So by the time you have created a new armhole, now connect this one to it. Okay, so you just connect this one to it. So just connect this to the new armhole like so. Okay, so this is your new armhole. When you are cutting your yoke part, this is where you would cut. Okay, so because this is yoke, when you are cutting, you have to first of all remove the yoke like so before you cut this part, before you cut out the dart. So now, having done this, the next thing is to place our horizontal measurement on this side. So we are settled with this part because the measurement at this part has covered up for the bust. So we come to the under bust. So the under bust circumference divided by 4 is 8. You mark your 8 inches. You mark your 8 inches and you replace this dart. We have 2 inches on this side and 1 inch on this side. So you mark your 3 inches. So I hope this is clear. Now I didn't explain to you how to fold on your fabric in case you are cutting directly on your fabric. So to cut directly on your fabric, you have to place it on fold. And the measurement to place on fold is your biggest measurement plus at least 5 inches. it should not be shorter than 5 inches because of the dart you'll be cutting out and the seam allowance you will be adding. So you fold, like here the biggest circumference here is the bust because the measurement is not exceeding the waist. So the biggest measurement is the bust, which is 9 inches. That is the bust circumference divided by 4. 9 inches plus 5. Okay, so that is 14. So I folded my fabric or paper by 14. Okay, so that is what you should do in case you want to cut directly on fabric, because what we are doing here, you can do it directly on your fabric. So by the time you cut out the yoke, you now place the yoke on whatever you want to use as your yoke and you cut it. And one other thing you need to bear in mind is this: if this is my fabric, like I am cutting directly on my fabric, this is the main part of my fabric, before cutting this side I would add ½ inch on this side, okay, before cutting it. So the ½ inch is to join the tube part to the yoke part. Then by the time you have cut out the yoke, when you are cutting your yoke on the fabric you want to use for your yoke, you add 1 inch. So just take this gradually. Why are you adding 1 inch? The 1 inch is because you cut out ½ inch from it initially to add to this side. So you replace that ½ inch. Then you also add its own ½ inch for joining it to the tube part. So we'll get to that, okay? So now we are at placing our horizontal measurement. Like I said, your underbust divided by 4 plus your dart. So my underbust divided by 4 is 8 inches. I just made a little mark. Then I'm replacing my dart because I'll be cutting it out. You have to replace it. If you don't replace it, by the time you join, you'll be short of that 3 inches and the clothes will be tight on the person. So you replace it. So that is it, okay? I have not added seam allowance yet. Then you come to your waist. Now, before marking that, remember you have to bring down the dart. Okay, so you also mark whatever you have marked here. You mark it here as well. 2 inches on this side and 1 inch on this side. Okay, so you also draw it down like so. So please don't get confused. Follow it step by step and you'll get it right. Okay, so this is it. So by the time you have marked it like so, you now place your waist circumference, divide by 4. So in this case, it is 8.5. So I just like marking it out before adding the dart replacement. You just mark it so that from there you add your dart replacement. So 3 inches dart is what we are taking, or is what we took. You replace it, okay? So now you connect. So I haven't added seam allowance. So I just want to see the actual measurement plus that replacement. Okay, this is it. Now you can add from 1.5 inches seam allowance. So I like having excess. I've always thought that there's nothing like I am over perfect, so everything will just come out perfect. No, everybody, we learn every day. So with experience, always use up to 1.5 here for your seam allowance. You know why? At this midpoint, this center point, when we placed our bust span, added ½ inch for joining this part to this part. Now, you also, by the time you join this side, you have shortage here. So that ½ inch, you need it to add it here. So if your seam allowance is 1 inch, so you add ½ inch to it because of the joining of this. The ½ inch will be taken from this side to join to this side. So that is why I said, you take like 1.5. So if you want to have much allowance over that side, you can take 2 inches. Some clients add weight easily and they want you to create more allowance for them inside so they can always loosen up the dress. So but in this case, I'll just take 1.5. So you just mark your 1.5 from here and you connect. Okay, so you just connect. So this is it. Okay, so we are done drafting. Now it is time to cut. Before you cut out the dart, just remove the yoke. Okay, this is how your yoke is coming, like so. Okay, this is how your yoke is coming. Let me just use the marker here so that you won't get confused. So this is how you cut out your yoke, like so, and you have it, this part will be your yoke. Then if this is fabric, like you don't want to use paper, you just want to go ahead and cut directly on your fabric, and you'll be cutting your yoke on another material or another fabric that is like on lace or net. What you will do, add your half inch. Okay, add your half inch. Let me add your half inch for joining the yoke part to the two part. Add it here at once and you cut it out. Okay, so by the time you cut it out, so just add your half inch. Now let me connect it. So let me just connect it. Just carefully connect. Sorry for the double lines. So this is it, okay? Then you extend it also. I hope this is clear. This is when you are cutting on fabric directly. But if you're not cutting on fabric directly, you're cutting on your paper so that you can transfer on your fabric. Just cut out this one. You have this side and you have this side. Then when you place it on your fabric to cut, you now add your half inch on this side. And on the yoke side, you also add your half inch. So by the time you join, you won't tamper with your armhole or anything. Not everything will relax the way it should be. So now I am doing this because I just imagine that this is fabric in case you just want to cut directly on your fabric, but it's not all the time you cut on paper. That is why I have decided to do this. So I'll go ahead and cut. So you first of all remove your yoke. So you first of all remove your yoke. So you just cut your yoke like so. Now one more thing, okay, you need to place your shoulder seam allowance. You'll be joining the front to the back, so you need half inch for joining your shoulder, the front and the back. So don't forget that, okay, before you cut. Always do this. That is why I made this space at the top. Sorry. So just connect it, okay. So I'll cut it out. Now you cut your neckline. So this is the yoke, okay? So you just have it there. Don't forget, when you're transferring on your lace or whatever you're using, you would add 1 inch. So the 1 inch is to make it up. The half inch you have taken away from it, plus its own half inch for joining. So what you place is 1 inch. So you keep your yoke aside. So this is our yoke. So for those that have been asking me what is yoke, I just hope you are following this video. This is what we call the yoke, the upper. Though I have answered them in the comment section, I've explained what yoke is. So this is it. So now we can go ahead and cut out this part and also cut our dart. So remember, you also have to extend the dart now. You also have to extend it up now. So you cut it out. And there's one more thing I like explaining on this channel. Whenever you're making a bustier, always add allowance at the lower part. If you're taking half inch for joining maybe the top to the lower part, use up to one inch. The reason is so that by the time you join your bustier, if it is not equal, you can always have room to trim out the excess. Okay, by the time you have measured the actual length you want, you trim out the excess. Then it is better to have excess than to have shortage. So now we'll cut out the dart. So this is what we have here. So I've always said it here. Whenever you're making your bustier, always notch your bust points. So this will help you when you are joining. Notch your bust points. Because on the other side, you no longer have the mark showing. So for your notch will be a guide for you. Okay, so just at the bust point, it's okay. So you notch it. So when you're joining, you'll be able to. So this is our two-top. So you can see. So you can see by the time you join it, you see why I said you should replace your dart. By the time you join it, you see the armhole matching up. You see it matching up. But if you hadn't replaced that dart, by the time you join, you see that this is where, just assuming you didn't replace this one and you join, you see that you'll be short of fabric here. What will you do? So please always replace your dart. You can see it here. So now let me cut out the yoke on a separate paper to show you what I meant by adding your 1 inch. Okay, so let me assume that this is the fabric I want to use for my yoke. Okay, let's assume that this is net, lace, or whatsoever. You also place it on fold. By the time you place it on fold, you place your yoke on it. Okay, so you place your yoke on it like so. So you can hold it down so that it doesn't move around. So you just place it. So you can either use your pin or paper tape like so, and you mark it and you place it down. So now you will be marking 1 inch. I've explained that. Half inch for joining it to the other part, and the half inch you took away from it to add to this one. Okay, so you replace it. What you do now, from this point, mark 1 inch. Okay, so you just keep marking 1 inch from every point of the yoke like so. Keep marking 1 inch. So you just keep taking 1 inch, okay? Then you connect it. Sorry, you connect it. So you have it going this way. So you can actually use your free hand to connect. If you're drawing on your fabric, all you need to do is just use your chalk. Go this way, okay? And you just connect it. Okay, so I have it there ready. You can use your French curve, you can use your chalk. You just go that way. Okay. So this is it. So I just decided to extend it. Then you connect it from here. Just connect it. Make sure you're not going deep inside. Make sure you're not going inside. So just connect it to meet with this one. Okay? Just connect it like so, and you cut out. So you just cut out everything. So just follow it the way it is. And you have it. Okay, so this is the yoke. This is the yoke. Now you can go ahead and join. Now you can go ahead and join. So this is it. Okay, so by the time you join this one, you have it matching up. So as usual on this channel, I like showing you what it looks like or what it will look like by the time you have joined it. Though I am not transferring this on fabric yet, but I'll show you how you can go ahead and join this. Now if you will padding your bustier, you will just use your wadding. You cut out your wadding to this shape like so. You cut out your wadding to your under bust using this shape from this point to your under bust. You do same on this side, okay, to your under bust. Then you iron your wadding to it, or you fix your wadding to it. I have videos on that on this channel. If you're new to this channel, please check through the other videos and you see helpful videos on bustiers. I've made a lot of videos on bustiers on this channel. So I'll go ahead and join. So if you're like you're doing this on your fabric, after you have used your wadding to pad it, you now place your bust point to bust point. Okay, so this is what we have. You place your bust point to bust point, so depending on where you're using as your back. So let me just, this paper, I'm not sewing it, so I just want to show you how you can join it. See why I said you should notch your bust point. You match it up there and you stitch. So you just carefully stitch. Okay, so you've gotten to the end. You also stitch this way too. So I'll go ahead and use my pin to hold it down so you see what we have, and also show you how to fix your yoke. Somebody has also asked that question on this channel: how do you fix the yoke? So I'll show you that. So I have managed to use pin to hold it together, so you can see the tube top already. So I have a video on this channel on how you can just go ahead and draft your tube top without the yoke part. You don't want to waste fabric, creating the full basic bodice. Just from where you want your tube to start from, you just draft. I have that. So now you have joined your tube. You want to join the yoke to it. What you simply do is this. Sorry, this is paper, so you just standing. So this is just an illustration. When you're doing it on your fabric, you see how beautiful it is. So you take your yoke, this is the right side, you place it over the right side of your tube. Then you place the center point, meeting the center point here, that is midpoint to midpoint. Then you hold it down with your pin at that point. So you see why I said it shouldn't make your yoke too deep, so that at this point you won't have problem joining it. Okay, so now by the time you have held it with your pin at this side, you now carefully start matching it up. Okay, so you carefully start matching it up. So this is paper, you need to be careful so that it doesn't tear. So you carefully match it up. So it is better to pin it down. First of all, pin it down before you take your sewing machine and start stitching. So you just carefully from the midpoint there, you pin it, okay, till you've gotten to the other side. Like so. So you just carefully pin it. So this is it. So remember you're stitching by 1/2 inch, okay? So by the time you have pinned it to this side, and this is what you have. So it's better to have excess. The excess you have, you just mark it connect it to this point and you trim it out. So that is it. So it's better to have excess than having shortage. So you can see what we have there. So from this side as well, you would match it up to the other side carefully. So you need to carefully do that. So this is paper. I don't want it to tear. If it is fabric, you see it, following you just the way you want it to follow you. So we need this side to be smooth. So you need to be careful when doing that. Do the same thing you did on this side, you do it here. Okay, carefully matching it like so. So you have it there. Okay, so this is your yoke. So you can see, like I said, whatever excess you have, just connect it like so and trim it out. You can as well match it, that is fold it and you shape the armhole. Okay, so it's actually not a big deal. You have it there. You do same to this side. So it's better you have what to cut out down. At the end, the fabric is short, you'll be looking for how to make it top. It's better to have it excess and you're good to go. Okay, so be careful when you're doing this so you don't overcut it. And we'll have our tube top with yoke. Okay, so you can see what we have here. Okay, so when you transfer this in fabric, it will be very nice. And don't forget, I said I added 1 inch at the yoke because I assumed I was cutting directly on my fabric. So if you are cutting on the paper to transfer to your fabric, you would not need to add ½ inch to this part. Okay, so you just cut it the way it is. Then when you transfer to your fabric, that is when you now add a ½ inch, and on the yoke side you also add ½ inch for joining it. So the armhole area, please, when you're trimming out any excess, you have to be careful, okay, so that I don't overcut like as I've done now. So you just have to be careful. Make sure you just curve it well. Okay, so this is actually not a problem. It will still be okay. You have a nice, by the time you join your sleeve, you have it sitting very nice at the armhole area. So I believe this is okay, and we'll be cutting the back. But before we do that, if you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please hit on that subscribe button. Yes, you see the subscribe written under the video. Just hit on it and turn on the bell beside it. Turn on all notifications so that you will not miss out on any new upload. Okay, so now let's draft the back. It is very simple. So this is the back. So because I don't want the video to be too long, I have decided to draft out the back. This is our neckline because the back neckline in this case, okay, will be higher than the front. So I came down by 1 inch for my depth, but the width is still the same 4 inches I took at the front. Then the shoulder slant, the armhole. Then if you notice, the back armhole didn't come in because the back armhole is not supposed to go in. So the reason for the front armhole going in is to avoid, bulkiness or avoid too much fabric at the armhole area in front. But the back, you just mark your bust circumference divided by 4, then you connect. Okay, and if you notice, I extended the line to this part to have our chest line because the dart at the back will get to the chest line. So this is your chest line where the armhole line, that is where the armhole depth got to, is your chest line or your upper bust. Okay, then this is the bust point, this is the under bust, and this is the waist. So here we will not use the under bust, as in we will not make use of it because we don't have bust at the back. So why we usually create our darts from the under bust is to make the bustier or make the cup. Okay, so here we will not make use of this. It's the waist dart that we'll be making use of, waist dart. So let's go ahead and continue, and I've placed my zipper allowance. So this 1 inch you see here is the zipper allowance. Okay, so this is it. So from now, what we'll be doing is to place the darts. Okay, so just like we did in the front, your bust pan is what you mark. So you mark from this chest line all the way down. So you also mark it here. You mark it all the way down, okay? Your bust pan plus half inch for joining the dart. So by the time you have marked it, you connect as usual. So just connect. Sorry for the double line. Just connect. So now we would now create the neck line. That is the neckline for the two parts. So you have to make sure that at this armhole area is matching up, because by the time you join, it should match up at the sides. Okay, your yoke should be matching up at the sides. So what you do, you make sure you align it like so. Okay, you can just use the shoulder part to align it. I remember okay, you just open it up to make it easy. You know, you have to cut out everything before you start joining. So open it. That is assuming you have not joined the yoke. So where you have it, let's just trace it. Okay, so when you're doing this on your fabric, you know what to do. Just trace it. This is where the yoke, this is where you should cut it out at the back. So by the time you join the front and the back, it will align at this by the sides. Okay, now to this other side, whatever way you want the back yoke to be, you can decide to draw it like that. You can decide to just come straight. Okay, you can do, because normally the sweetheart neck is at the front part, we usually do it. So the back is either V or straight. Okay, so you can decide to just come like this. Whichever is a matter of preference, matter of choice. Whatever you want is what you should do here. You can be creative. So this is the yoke for the back. Okay, this is the yoke for the back. Now you would extend this bust pan line to that mark you have created. So by the time you have done this now, remember I said it is waist dart. So you come to the waist, you don't need much here. What you take is half inch on this, you take half inch on this side and half inch on this side. So just mark your half inch and half inch on this side. And you would connect it to this part. Okay, so why I actually place this chest line is because if you were drafting like ordinary back, your dart will get to the chest line, as you would have just connected it to the chest line. So that's how to get your dart at the back when you're making the waist dart. Okay, so I'm just adding this one, but since it is yoke, we are making yoke blouse. Now the dart will extend to this point here. To extend to this point. So now you would connect. Okay, now you connect it to that point like so. So just connect up and you connect this other side. Sorry for the background noise, please. So just carefully do that. Make sure it's connected there. Okay, so this is just it. So by the time you have done this, the next thing is to place your horizontal measurement. So the bust has been taken care of here. So you come to the under bust. So under bust divided by 4, that is 8 inches. So I'll mark my 8 inches. By the time you mark it, you have to measure what you have here so I can replace your dart. So you just measure it. Okay, whatever you have, you replace it. Okay, so that is it. You come to the waist, you place your waist circumference divided by 4, you mark it, then you replace your 1 inch dart. Remember you have half inch on this side and half inch here, so that is 1 inch. Then you replace it. Okay, now I didn't fold this paper because it is just paper. I'm not going to sew it. I folded the front so I can show you how the bustier looks, but here there's no need to fold it. But when you're cutting your fabric, you have to place on fold. So how do you know the measurement to fold? Your biggest measurement plus your zipper allowance plus your dart and the seam allowance. So just add up everything. In this case, the bust circumference is the biggest, 9 inches, plus 1 inch dart, that is 10, 1 inch zipper allowance, 10, 1 inch for dart, 11, then 1.5 inch for seam allowance, so that is 12.5. Okay, so you fold your paper based on that. You can even add a little extra just to be on the safe side. So by the time you have marked it, you connect. So this is the actual measurement. I have not added seam allowance, so just connect this. Okay, so let me extend it so I can add my seam allowance. So now I'll add 1.5 inch seam allowance like I did at the front. So 1.5, 1.5 and 1.5. Then I will connect. Okay, so this is it for our back. And now we would cut. Now we don't have darts here, that is, we are not cutting out that here, so no need to replace our darts here. All you need to do is just blend this armhole well at this point. Okay, so the front we had to replace that because we're cutting out the dart. So this is just it for the back. You go ahead and first of all cut out your yoke. Then if you like, you can cut out the dart. If you like, you can just leave it the way it is and you sew it when you are sewing. Okay, so it's a matter of choice. And for me, I prefer to just go ahead and sew it. So the dart is to give fitting at the back. Okay, so that is just it. So now I'll go ahead and cut. And don't forget, if you're cutting on your fabric, borrow ½ inch from this side. So what you do, extend this side by ½ inch and cut it out. Then when you are cutting your yoke on the yoke fabric, you add 1 inch extra for the yoke. That is half for its own joining and the half you borrowed this one, this side. It is already I hope it is clear already. I explained that when we're cutting the front. Okay, so but if you're cutting directly on the paper, just go ahead and cut it here. When you now transfer on your fabric, you add ½ inch at this side, you add ½ inch for the yoke, and you join. So it's as simple as that. So right now, I'll just go ahead and cut. Okay. So make sure that this extends to the zipper area, okay, and your neckline as well. So for your yoke, you can decide to make your zipper up to this point. Okay, you fix your zip up to this point. You will not add zip to the yoke. So this zipper allowance at the yoke side, you use it to fold it. Use it to, that is, to hem the edge of the yoke, or yes, use it to hem it. Okay, you can either hem it, you can either use bias, whatever you want to do to that part, you do to it. Then you join it. By the time you join it, you have opening there. Then at the top, then you just fix a little button. So just be creative about it. So you have to cut out your yoke. And one more thing, whenever I get to this point, I remember that I have to add my armhole, that is my shoulder allowance. You need it. Your shoulder seam allowance, remember, ½ inch, so that you can use it to join the shoulders. Okay, the front and back shoulder. So you need that ½ inch so that when you join, you will not be shortening your neckline and the armhole. So this is it. I just hope this is clear. Feel free to drop your comments in the comment section. I always create time by God's grace to answer your questions. Okay, So here it is, very simple, very simple, and to join the back is very simple. So like I said, I didn't place it on fold, so if I had placed it on fold, you also see the other part, and all you need to do is just to join, and you have it there. So you can see the front. You see why I said you need to add your this allowance at the top, and that is where you sew from. So by the time you sew by that ½ inch, you would not be affecting your neckline. So you can see, if you had not add the ½ inch, by the time you fold or by the time you stitch your shoulder, you will see that your neckline will be reduced. Okay, to reduce, and you will not get what you want, and even your armhole will reduce. So you need to always add this your shoulder seam allowance. It is helpful to join your back and front at the shoulder. So you can see what we have here. Okay, you can see the back and the front. By the time you stitch by the side, you see the yoke parts aligning. Okay, so it's very important, and that is just it. I hope you like this video. Please give it a thumbs up. That is, just hit on that thumbs up icon, and if you are yet to subscribe, please subscribe. Be part of this wonderful family. We want you here, and share this video with your friends. Okay, let everybody learn. Share with your friends. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, please search for Fashion and Styles with McVivi on Facebook. Okay, so you join the group. And I have another channel on beauty, lifestyle, fitness, business, relationship, marriage, natural remedies. Okay, so that channel is another part of my life that I want to share with you guys. It's not only sewing that we do. I'm into some other things. I would love to share with you guys how I keep fit, even as a mother of 5 and over 40, or let me 40, and still looking good, as people always say. Yes, people are the one that will tell you how you look. So that is it. So just search for that channel, McVivi TV, McVivi TV, and you join. I'll also try to leave the link in the description box so that you can check it out. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. Remain blessed. I'd like to see you in my next video. God bless you.